Welcome to the NFL Cymru podcast with myself, Dyfed Cynan Guto Williams. You know what time it is. It is Sunday night, the 16th of February 2025. It's hard to believe that this time last week, the majority of us football fans were preparing for the big game for Super Bowl 59. I can imagine Guto this time last week. What do you reckon? You would, Super Bowl pre-drinks?
Yeah, this time last week, I was definitely at the pub. I was about two beers deep after my tactical nap. So, yeah,
Nice.
it's been a week already. It's nuts, and it's sad that the season's over because it's a very short
Yeah.
season. But I think we have an interesting off season ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to it. But the long wait to week one is upon us.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be strange. Like you said, what are we going to do on Sunday evenings? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to record a pod and we're going to talk more American football. I think that's the best thing to do for now because there are going to be some lulls within the season, especially after the draft. There's that period between the draft and training camp. That is probably the time just literally goes so slow. But we've got a lot coming up before the draft in April. Obviously we've got free agency coming up in less than 3 weeks. I think I've said before on the pod, this is probably one of my favorite parts of the season, free agency. It's very, very exciting. And you've always got a team like the one that I support, the Dolphins. They always like to do a splash. Pardon the pun, but they always go for the big contract, whether they should or not, whether they've got the money or not. To be honest with you, so we'll definitely keep track. However, for those of you who listened, this is our third episode of the week. We already had two recaps of the Super Bowl. We had part one on Monday with Johan Furnham, an Eagles fan, and then on Thursday we had part two with my dad, Geraint Cynan, a Chiefs fan. So today we're going to talk about basically the news and some potential trades or trade requests. Some of them that came out literally hours before the beginning of the Super Bowl. Let's just start with the one and only Aaron Rodgers. He's leaving the Jets.
Yeah, he's leaving the Jets. Apparently, he wanted to stay with the Jets. That's what reports
Okay.
are saying. He was almost begging to stay, but the Jets, they decided to go a different way. It hasn't really worked out for Aaron Rodgers. Looking back, it's been 2 seasons. He's only played one season and 74 seconds of another season due to that season-ending injury at the very first game against the Bills. Very disappointing for him, obviously. There was a lot of hype of him joining the Jets, and there was a lot of hype around how far the Jets could go as a team with Rodgers as their quarterback, but it just didn't work out for him. It's a shame, and now he'll be looking for another team. Whether anyone will be interested in him, he's going to have a very interesting off-season, I believe.
Mm. But let's be honest. Those who are willing to take on the persona of Aaron Rodgers, let's be honest, he's got a lot of baggage that comes with him, doesn't he? He's a personality, and let's be honest, with the Jets, like you said, he tore his Achilles. A few plays into the first game of the regular season against the Bills, so he missed the season. Came back for the second season. Within 3 months, he got his head coach and his GM fired. So you can imagine that some teams are going to say, no, thank you. We don't want anything to do with that. He's a big personality. And whether he can actually, whether he can actually play to the level that teams expect and teams pay for is another thing. So, like I think it's a wise move from the Jets, and I think they'll definitely, either they're going to target the draft for a quarterback. I think they've got the 8th pick in the draft, so potentially they might have to move up to get a QB, or they might target one in free agency. Gito, where do you think? Which possible team that Aaron Rodgers could land on at the beginning of the 2025 season?
So the team I've got in mind, which will make probably the more sense to me is the Las Vegas Raiders. But that's a funny one as well. Last season, obviously, Devontae Adams left the Raiders to join Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. That didn't work out either, but there must have been some talk between Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They've been together at Green Bay before. They're close friends and everything. Devontae must have stirred apart, saying how bad everything is in Las Vegas. Um, and but now, obviously, Tom Brady is running things in Las Vegas. He's one of the higher ups. He could be tempted to bring Aaron Rodgers in. But like you said, Las Vegas, they're in the draft as well. They're in the top 6 or 7, I believe. They are in a hunt for a quarterback, definitely. I can see the other teams in the top 10. You've got Tennessee, you've got Cleveland, the Giants. They'd possibly be looking for a quarterback. I can't see Rodgers joining any of them teams at all. Las Vegas, for me, is the one that makes more sense for him. So that's what I'm going for. Another team, possibly, there's been some rumors about the Steelers if Russell Wilson does decide to leave, because he's only had a 1-year contract with the Steelers. So if they don't extend his contract, but does the Steelers want to go for Rodgers due to the fact that he's such a big personality? And the Steelers, they already have I forget the name, the Justin Fields from Chicago. I think he's a great talent, so I don't think the Steelers will pursue him. So to me, the only team I've got in my mind is the Las Vegas Raiders, controversially enough.
You know what? I completely agree with you. For some reason, I just can't see him with the Steelers. In my mind, when I picture it, it just doesn't look right. And like you said, it's so interesting with Devontae Adams, isn't it? Because he moved from Green Bay apparently to be with Derek Carr because they played in college together, and then the next thing, Las Vegas. Well, they bench Derek Carr and trade him to the Saints. So, like you said, I think Devontae Adams is definitely going to be out the door. The Jets are definitely going for a rebuild. They want to get Rodgers and Adams's contract off of their books. I think that's going to open up a lot of cap space anyway. And I should imagine that their OC Nathaniel Hackett will probably go with Aaron Rodgers, or he might, I don't know, what a fall from grace from him. 3 years ago, he became a head coach of the Denver Broncos, had probably one of the worst seasons, was fired after less than a year. Then he went to the Jets OC. Clearly, that didn't work out. He got demoted, and I don't know where he's going to end up. But like I said, I'm genuinely scratching my head to think where else apart from Las Vegas that he could potentially go. So there we are. That's the end of the Rodgers debacle for now. I'm sure there'll be more about Aaron Rodgers. Let's move on. There's a few really, really good, stars, NFL stars out there that have requested trades. These news came in just around, or a couple of days just before the Super Bowl. The one that kind of shocked me the most really was, should we start with Deebo Samuel? Apparently the 49ers are going to allow him to seek a trade.
Yeah, it was a shock to me as well. He's still in his prime. He's 29. I don't understand why they want to get rid of him, because he's such a talent. I know the Raiders, not the Raiders, I apologize, the 49ers, they did get a bad season last season. They finished bottom of their division, and the season before they lost the Super Bowl in overtime. So it's been a season to forget for them. But possibly Deebo Samuel, I'm not sure if it's his decision or the franchise's decision to move him on, but it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, I potentially it might be just down to cap number, and they paid Brandon Ayuk at the beginning of last season after his holding.
Yeah.
So I guess they probably haven't got the money to pay 2 star wide receivers. Ayuk is younger. Like you said, Deebo, I can't believe he's 29, because I remember him. Because because at one point San Francisco used him as a running back and a wide receiver as well. So he's a dual threat. So like I said, I think he's got plenty of of seasons left in the tank, and he could be a really, really big weapon. Now then, whether he wants to go somewhere and be a number one wide receiver, he probably will want to be paid as a number one wide receiver. I'm just thinking off the top of my head now, the Dolphins, although we've got Tyreek Hill, oh, I don't know, let's not talk about Tyreek Hill. Is he going to stay? Is he going to request a trade? I don't know. We've got Jalen Waddle. He could be very handy. However, like I said, the Dolphins we can't afford him. But he's definitely going to have a lot of interest on the trade market. So that's one wide receiver. Another wide receiver, quite interestingly, Cooper Cup Guto apparently is going to be on the moves. The LA Rams are looking to shop their wide receiver. He's already won a Super Bowl with them 3 years ago. I wouldn't say he's coming towards the end of his career, but it'll be interesting to see where, again, I'm sure like Deebo, he'll have plenty of options. Yeah, he's coming off a bad injury, but last season I think he had a pretty decent season when he was fit anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And Cooper Cup, he's basically one of the legends in his position, really, isn't he? Looking back, he's won the Super Bowl with the Rams. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes again. Yeah, 100%. I believe he's 30 or 31 years old. So he has a few more years left in him, 100%. A few teams I can see shopping for a star wide receiver who's got enough space, cap space, and he can land either Deebo Samuel or Cooper Cup. It might be an interesting pick, but the Washington Commanders, I think that could be the perfect fit for them to take that step one step further. They obviously made the NFC Championship games, of course, unexpectedly, and they did a hell of a job of doing so. But to find that missing piece, I think the Washington will be a good fit for a new star wide receiver.
Definitely, they're one of the top 5 teams that's got in terms of cap space. You sent me a couple of days ago when it came out who the top 10 teams with the most cap space in the NFL, and it's by far number one. It's the Patriots have got a ridiculous amount. I think they've got 120 million cap space.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, they bloody need it as well, don't they? Their roster
Yeah.
is absolutely trash. No offense, Patriots fans, but they are definitely a team that should be shopping for a number one wide receiver. And we heard from Johan as well on Monday that the Eagles apparently there are rumors out there that the Eagles might be targeting a trade for AJ Brown to the Patriots. I personally I can't see him okaying that, if I'm honest with you. If he's just won a Super Bowl and he's going to one of the worst teams in the league at the moment, which are clearly rebuilding. They've just fired their coach after one season. Okay, they might have a talented young quarterback in Drake May. So like I said, Washington is a great shout. Terry McLaurin, their number one, is a brilliant wide receiver. They could definitely do with a second one. Do you know what? Another cheeky one, maybe. I'm not sure if they have the cap space. I'm thinking Cooper Cup more than Deebo Samuel. How about the Chiefs?
Ooh, the Chiefs, okay. Yeah. That
I think they need a third option, and I think a Cooper Cup is a perfect guy. He's probably not going to play every single down. It depends if Rashid Rice comes back because he might be suspended.
Yeah.
You've got Xavier Worthy, who is a speedster who's going to spread the field. And then you've got Kupp in the slot, potentially. But like I said, I don't know if they could potentially afford his contract.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. The Chiefs will be looking to bolster their roster after being embarrassed by the Super Bowl. They'll be looking at every position apart from Patrick Mahomes, to be honest. So that'll be an interesting pick. I don't see Cooper Cup settling to be a WR3, to be honest. But unless the Chiefs will, if they do pursue him and push him to wide receiver 2, have Worthy at number 1. Like you said, Worthy, he's a speedster. He can run around everywhere. Having Cooper Cup playing the simple role, it could potentially work. So, but yeah, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Cup, it's going to be... There's some big stars moving in this free agency. I'm looking forward to it, definitely.
Do you know, Gito, another team that's literally just popped into my mind, and it makes absolutely sense. A
Yeah,
team that's come so close. They were in the AFC Championship game. The Bills.
the Bills.
The Bills are definitely going to target a wide receiver. I'm not sure if they're going to keep Amari Cooper that they signed halfway through the season. I mean, hats off to the OC. What's his name? Brady. Joe Brady. He did an absolutely fantastic job spreading the ball around. I know they got Shakir, who is their number one. They had Amari Cooper, and then really they had a bunch of unknowns at wide receiver. I know they got rid of their star Stephon Diggs. Apparently, he's going to be on the move as well. The Texans aren't going to renew his contract, so he might be on the move as well.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see the Bills targeting someone like Cooper Kupp, to go in the slot, just to help Josh Allen, just to try and get them past the Chiefs or past whoever, to get to their first Super Bowl for what, almost 15 or maybe 20 years, I think. So look out for the Bills as well.
Yeah, I agree. And anyone in the AFC will be looking to bolster their attack just to get on the same level as the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are running away with it almost every season. So, yeah, that's definitely a good shout. The Texans is a good shout as well. So, they're to me the same position as the Washington, just to take it one step further. The Bills are almost there. The Ravens, they're almost there as well, just at the same level as the Chiefs. So anybody in that AFC will be looking to do that, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, free agency is literally just around the corner. Myles Garrett is obviously going to be the biggest free agent.
Yeah.
He's going to be, obviously he's going to have a lot of options, I should imagine. However, he's going to be demanding the highest price as well. However, like, teams are obviously going to pay him. But it's going to be interesting to see where he picks, because I know we talked about this just before the Super Bowl. There are so many different options, some of them within the same division. I think I said that the Ravens could be a good shout as well.
Yeah.
But he said point blank that he wants to contend for a Super Bowl. So he's not, for instance, going to go to, with all due respect, Tennessee, Carolina, places like this. I potentially think, what two options. Either he's going to go with someone like the Ravens, or like you said, the Texans in the AFC, or he's going to jump ship and go to the NFC and say, right, I want to clear a path to the Super Bowl. I don't want to have to deal with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, all of the powerhouses of the AFC. And he might go to someone like, I think didn't Johan say that Philadelphia are one of the favourites to land him as well, which is absolutely crazy to me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, me too. If the Philadelphia lands him, I said this before. We'll be talking about the Eagles doing the 3P at this range if they land Garrett. So, but yeah, I mentioned Houston. I also mentioned Dallas Cowboys as well, just because Garrett, he is a Texan. He's from Texas, so he might want to stay close to home.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't go, obviously with the Texans, jump ship to Dallas. But I believe they're in the same division as the Eagles. So
Yeah.
the NFC, it's pretty stacked at the moment. So, but yeah, the other name I had was the Commanders, if they want to have that missing piece in defense as well, which you will jump to NFC. So, yeah, that is so far the biggest story. For the free agency, definitely.
I think he potentially might be the first domino to land. And then potentially we'll have the bigger moves after. Or he'll take his time to kind of consider and wait for the right option, wait for the right team, like we've already said to come. So it'll be interesting to see how long that takes, really. But like I said, he's definitely the biggest name to look out for. Gito, shall we talk some Louis Rees-Zammit?
Yes, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of news, but let's talk about it either way.
Yeah, exactly. Because we said there was an article that I noticed that came out just before the Super Bowl, apparently saying that the Jags the team that he played for, on their practice squad last year, weren't going to renew his contract, let's say. And he was shopping round. Well, he pretty much told us, those who watched the ITV commentary on the Super Bowl, that he had apparently a few teams that he was talking to, and he was going to make his decision in the next couple of days. Obviously, we're still waiting for that decision. We were kind of hoping that we would be able to talk about it tonight. Clearly, he is keeping us in the dark. So we thought that we'd come up with some of the teams that would potentially suit him as the new player, switching from running back to wide receiver as well. And obviously, a lot of this is down to scheme, and where ultimately is going to be his best opportunity to kind of get up the ranks and potentially be a wide receiver 4, 5 returner. So we'll start with you, Guitar. Give me a name of a team that potentially Zammit could land on.
So I've got two teams. I'm going to give you my first one. The first team I've got written down is the New York Jets.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think, a team that's currently in a rebuild, we're not sure what's going to happen with Devontae Adams. And another reason why I've picked this team, but I'll mention that after you mentioned your team. But I think New York Jets is, unless it doesn't sign with the Jaguars, obviously, but if he lands anywhere else, the Jets for me is the first name.
Either the Jets or the Giants makes sense. It just makes sense that Zammit would land in a big market like New York or LA or somewhere like that. It would break my heart. Don't get me wrong, because the Jets are in the same division as the Dolphins. But there we are. Let that go. My first team is the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears have a young wide receiver in Rome Odunze that they drafted along with Caleb Williams last year. Things were looking up quite early, and then everything went to pot halfway through the season. So they clearly need more help at wide receiver. Keenan Allen was another one that they landed from the LA Chargers. But I think they need to get younger. Allen is 33, 34. And Zammit, I think, would definitely be able to be a returner for Chicago as well. Again, not as big as the New York market. Chicago, another big place. A new head coach as well. I just thought a change of regime as well would mean a better opportunity for him. So that Chicago Bears is probably my first team.
A second team I've got for you, and I'm going to give you reasons for both teams. So the second team I've got is the Cleveland Browns. They're second in the draft. The reason I went for the Jets and the Browns, number one, before he signed for the Chiefs, he had a meeting with the Jets and the Browns, so he's kind of familiar with the territory. I know the Browns isn't a big market, but they've spoken to him before. He could have signed with either one of them if not, before he went to the Chiefs. The second reason, I believe, is the Jets and the Browns. They're hosting a UK game this year, in 2025. So it could be for the international market to grow a little bit bigger to sign him in. The Browns, they've always got Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore as their wide receivers at the moment, unless they draft a few more here and there, because they're in a massive rebuild, definitely, and they'll be rebuilding for a few seasons, I believe. But those are the two teams I've got on my list. One out of the park, unless he wants to stay in Florida and he goes to the Dolphins, that might excite you.
Just a bit. Yeah. No. Do you know what? Yeah, I've thought about if the Dolphins would be a good fit. And honestly, I don't think it would, because they've got two excellent wide receivers in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Obviously, that third receiver is up for debate. and we don't need a returner. We drafted a returner in last year's draft as well. So unfortunately, I'm just trying to be realistic. Unfortunately, I don't think the Dolphins are an option.
Yeah.
However, I could be proved wrong. Do you know what? That's a really good point about the international games as well. That's why when he signed for the Jags, and the Jags, have 2 games in London in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I just thought it was a really, really good move on the Jags side of things. Obviously Zammit is a new name. He's Welsh. He's going to bring a new audience. So that's a really, really, really good point there. So my last team for you is the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh. I would be upset by that, me being a Falcons fan, but I love
Yeah.
New Orleans as a city. So
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
need to go visit New Orleans. But as a Falcons fan, I'd be gutted more than anything. But
Yeah.
it could be a good fit, definitely. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. The Saints need help at wide receiver, don't they?
They
They've got. I know they've got a really talented youngster in Chris Olave, but he was injured for the majority of last season.
Yeah.
I can't even name you their other wide receivers. It's
No.
that bad. Or
Yeah.
my memory is terrible. But honestly, in terms of big names, I genuinely can't name you the other wide receivers for the New Orleans Saints. So I think again, you've got Kellen Moore, obviously the former OC of the Eagles, coming off a Super Bowl win. He is now their head coach, an offensive mind. I'm just thinking, what are the best fits here as well? Again, New Orleans, like you said, not a big market, and not sure if they're going through a rebuild, but their offense you'd hope would look very, very different.
Yeah.
And maybe Zammit could potentially get in there as a returner to start, and potentially then move himself up to potentially get to wide receiver 3 or 4.
With the Saints as well, they've shopped in the international markets as well. Quite recently with the Irish kicker Charlie Smith, he's just signed a 2-year contract with them now, after being in a practice squad for 1 year. So they can shop internationally 100%.
Yeah.
I was just having a quick look at the wide receivers. I'll give you some names quickly. You might not know who they are. Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Oh, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, yes, yeah.
Dante Pettis, Mason Tipton, Kevin Austin Jr. They're not too familiar to me, to be honest with you. So I think they'll be looking for a new wide receiver. So that it could
Absolutely.
be. You made a good point there. It's an interesting spot, and New Orleans is a lovely city. I'd move there any day.
Yeah, yeah. But like you said, after all this, like you said before, he could potentially re-sign with the Jags as well, because they've got a really exciting offensive mind going there as well in Leo Cohen. So yeah, like you said, you never know, and let's hope that. Well, the signs are, from what he was saying on ITV, the signs were very positive, and he had a few offers on the table. That's what it came across to me anyway. I'm not sure. Did you see Zammit's interview?
I had a quick glance of it. It was on an Instagram story. From my understanding as well, there's a few contracts in there for him. He's currently living life in Dubai at the moment as we speak, actually.
Yeah.
So, but he's delaying it for all of us. But there's no news on. I go on social medias. There's no new updates or anything. So, which is quite weird, because not even a speculation or anything at all. So, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I hope he does land a team. If he stays with the Jags, fair play to him. I was quite worried that they'd let him go after Doug Peterson got the sack, because he was actually a fan of him. So maybe the new head coach will give him another chance for either one season. If the other teams pick him up, then which it'll be great for us to talk about, because this is mainly one of the main reasons for our podcast. It'll be brilliant, and I wish him well. I hope he finds a team soon.
Yeah. My only concern would be, if he does join a different team, is that going to is that going to put him back? Meaning, does he have to learn a brand new playbook? That's the only thing, because he's maybe not used to it. He's familiarized with the Jags one for the last year now, and obviously, like you said, Doug Peterson was fired. They've got a brand new coach, potentially a brand new scheme in Jacksonville. So he's going to have to, learn a brand new scheme, a brand new playbook anyway. But, that's the same wherever you go. There are obviously some schemes that kind of cross with others and based on around, kind of different concepts. But like you said, we'll definitely be looking out with PSIs for that breaking news, and obviously we'll have to do an emergency pod whenever that happens. Which hopefully, well, it has to happen this week, surely.
Yeah, he mentioned that he would make a decision during Superbowl. He said in the next couple of weeks or in the next week or so. So hopefully we get some news this week.
Yeah, there we are. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground there. We're a week post Super Bowl, so we've done the recap. We've summed up the breaking news and some of the potential trades that might be happening in the next couple of weeks. Moving on, Guto. I think next week, like I said, we're going to keep our ears open for Louis Rees-Zammit's announcement, and then we will definitely bring you some free agency news whenever that starts, and maybe we can do some predictions as well. We're gonna ramp things up here on the NFL Cymru podcast. Give us a like, give us a listen, either on Instagram and YouTube. Just look up NFL Cymru, you'll definitely find us. Also, Guto, you're on Twitter? No, X. I mean, what's your name on Twitter?
Twitter, X. If you give us a follow, we'd greatly appreciate it. It's NFL Cymru Pod.
NFL Cymru Pod. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Well, thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, we'll see you very shortly. Guto, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a lovely Sunday night.